pitch accuracy and taking different vowel sounds high. When you take your own voice higher, when you work with students moving higher, like what's your rule set? You know, do you take any vowel higher? Do you stick with the vowel? Do you start modifying towards, you know, different type of sound as you go up higher? Like, what's your thinking behind all of that?
Depends on really a few aspects when I'm trying to teach people how to go up higher than, around their bridge range and above. Um, it depends on how much volume you're taking up there, I believe. So when you're starting off nice and light, there's not going to be as much of a modification, I believe, necessary to be able to get through that bridge range and above. And I believe that really a lot of, I mean, all the vowels can be taken through there, um, through the bridge range without any real um, issues regarding kind of having to change a lot of things. A lot of things can stay a lot more steady, I believe, with going up quieter. But then as you're gaining intensity and volume, then it requires a little bit of a shift where, and this was really where I was finding a lot of difficulty with the Singing Success program and Singing Success altogether, is that I had found this release on quieter sounds that I was able to go up into my higher range without straining, but as long as I kept it quiet. But the problem is I wasn't singing there. Like, singing is a lot more above even speaking register in the call register. Um, and so in that area, I found that there's a lot more modification necessary, and that the vowels by and large need to be a little bit more narrow to get through that bridge area. And maybe if you're not even narrowing it per se, like the vowels, once you get to a certain degree, certain like range, they start to all sound pretty similar if you put them next to each other. When you're up in the super high range, they almost all modify more towards an ah, where they're going to be really wide open. And so in that way, you need to modify a lot more when you're going into that super high range at a louder volume, or even not even super high range, but into your higher range at a louder volume that requires a little bit more intensity. There, you need to make sure that you're not pulling as much weight up. And I believe that that's done by finding that balance of head and chest as you're moving through there with the vowels. The vowels kind of guide that resonance shift as you move up into your higher range.
Yeah, I've found that the equation in my head nowadays is essentially that as I squeeze more on the arytenoids, as I connect my chords more fully, the cricothyroid muscles that lengthen my chords have to work harder to lengthen out the folds. And I essentially find this balance between how much I'm bringing the chords together, so how much weight I'm bringing in fullness into the sound. To compensate for the extra weight, to get the release, I have to work harder on the cricothyroid muscle to get that stretch in the chord. And that's the basic equation in my mind. Now, with the vowels, what I found is that I like what you said, because at the mid-range, I feel like basically over the first bridge, really like the vowel doesn't matter. You can basically take any vowel up, like through the first bridge, like into the second bridge area. It's through the second bridge and above that you really start facing like physical limits, where some vowels are gonna be easier to maintain through that second bridge and above than others.
Maybe you could just clarify for people listening what the first and second bridge are.
Yeah, like I guess first bridge would be like, well, in terms of notes, it would be like E, F, F sharp above middle C for the guys. So high, like through to high C would be through the second bridge for a guy. But basically it's mid range would be like around kind of high mid-range, I guess, or mid-range would be like where your first bridge is, and then getting up higher would be like second bridge to like your kind of high notes for a guy. Some vowels essentially have lower limits than others, and essentially you have two choices you can make. Either you can start shifting the vowel at a certain point to negate those limitations on the vowels. You can start having fractions of vowels where you start moving and modifying towards a different type of vowel to get through that next part of your range in a free way. Or you can just work at keeping that pure sound and taking it as high as you can freely, and just figuring out like where's the limit of that sound. But basically, in that mid-range area, there's a compromise to be made. Certain sounds you have to work harder for than others to keep, and certain vowels you have to work harder for than others in the mid-range and the higher range. And assimilating into that is something that I've always kind of said to people, like that the best thing is that whatever sound it is, the first priority is to like figure out like how high can I take that sound freely without changing it at all, just lengthening those chords and sticking true to that. And then from there you can start tailoring and compromising as a next step in terms of getting through that second bridge and what's going to be the best move. Because yeah, for sure, like, you know, some vowels, like the chords, like literally the muscles have to be stronger to take certain vowels up high. And so because of that, you're not going to be able to get as much length in the chord on that particular, on a harder vowel than on an easier vowel. I found like narrow vowels in full voice tend to want to over squeeze. E. You get that E that over squeezes for people. They can't get it free. And then the more open ones, they tend to lose release in the sound and drop out the mouth. They can't get it to spin. And so I guess depending on what vowel it is, you're going to face different problems.